Welcome to Fantasy Fanline.
All right, hello everybody, and welcome to the very first episode of Fantasy Fanline, the only fantasy football call-in show putting you on the air with industry experts every week. I'm your host, Greg Scalera, and I want to thank you, yes, you personally, watching or listening, for joining us on our very first broadcast. Like I said, we'll be featuring different guests from around the industry every week to take your calls and answer your questions live on the air. So give us a call, 618-FANLINE, anytime during the show to talk some fantasy with us. I'll get that number up on the screen shortly, but that is 618-326-5463. You can tune into our show live every Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch, and I think Twitter. I don't know if we're streaming on Twitter. I'll probably find out after this episode, but please subscribe and hit the bell so that you're the first to know whenever we're on the air. Every episode is also available in audio format the following day wherever you find your podcast. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Fantasy Fanline, and visit fantasyfanline.com for a full schedule of our upcoming guests and to submit a question for our mailbag if you can't join us live. We are a brand new independent show. We'll be relying on your support to help us grow. So if you like what you hear, please leave us a review, tell a friend to tune in. It goes a long way. You can also support us at patreon.com/fantasyfanline for as little as $1 a month to earn exclusive perks like live shoutouts, priority calling codes, and access to our listener league to play with me and several of our guests for the upcoming season. Speaking of our guests for the upcoming season, I am thrilled to welcome our first guests today, Gabriel and Jacob from First Round Fantasy, one of my favorite up-and-coming fantasy football podcasts. They are at FRF Football on Twitter. I'm going to bring them in one at a time here. Gabe, what's going on, man? Introduce yourself. Welcome to the show. How you doing? I think you're muted, dude. Gabe, I cannot hear you if you're talking, man. Is your mic on? What do you got over there? You got a Yeti?
It's called mute, and when dogs bark, it happens. But
listen, man, it is 2021. We've been working at home for a year and a half now. You got to know how to work that mute button, brother. What's going on,
man? You would think. But hey, thank you so much for having me, man. I'm excited to be here. Part of the First Round Fantasy team. I brought my buddy here, so if you want to bring him on in, we could tell you a little bit about ourselves.
Mr. Jacob Bartley, welcome in, dude.
How's it going? Thank you for having us, Greg. Really appreciate it, man. I was telling Gabe yesterday, like, I think it's so cool for, these up and coming fantasy podcasts to collaborate together and kind of build our own community as we all grow our channels and things like that. So I think this is great.
Absolutely, man. And it has been a testament to the fantasy football community so far to kind of take me in and embrace this concept and bravely come on the show without ever having seen it happen before. You guys are the first. This could have been anything. I could have been a crazy person. I was still
thinking
be a crazy
about
person.
that. I was like, should I go and check like all his social media stuff to make sure I'm not like boast?
I am one of the only Bears fans in New Jersey, so the jury's still out on how crazy I am. I'm just a glutton for punishment.
Very true, very true. But like I told Gabe, I don't even care. I love talking fantasy so much. Like, just throw it my way and let's talk about it.
You got it. Well, I'm going to cut you off. We actually have our first caller coming in already. So
what? Exciting.
We'll find out who it is when they get into the room here. Yeah. I think it takes a second. Hey, caller, if you're on the line, you are on Fantasy Fanline. Who's calling? Where are you from?
This is Tommy Donuts. I am calling from South Plainfield, New Jersey currently.
Tommy Donuts, welcome to the show, brother. How you doing today?
Pretty good. How are you?
Pretty good, man.
Am I speaking to the Juggernaut right now?
Yes, this is the Juggernaut. Tommy and I play in a league at home together, and
Nice.
I was known as the Juggernaut a couple years ago. I went on a tear. I believe that was the year that I drafted Andrew Luck 10 minutes before he retired. So then I ended up having to take Lamar Jackson in the 10th, and he.
Pretty clutch showing that you had.
Yeah,
Didn't
thanks,
you have
man.
Lamar Jackson?
Yeah, that's what happened. That's why I took Lamar later that night, and it worked out okay. So sometimes things happen for a reason.
Things happen for a reason, man.
So Tommy, you got any questions you want to run past our experts today?
Yeah, I have a couple. I just have time for one question. I'm at work currently.
Dude,
so
you can have as many as you want, man.
All right, so there's a topic up for debate in a few of my fantasy leagues, and I was hoping that I can bring this debate up onto your show just to get like an expert's view of the whole situation.
Please do.
All right, so kickers, yes or no?
Oh,
I assume
wow.
you mean in fantasy lineups and not in the NFL.
I want to.
Yeah, Tommy, I happen to know which side of this debate you're on, so I'm going to let Gabe and Jacob speak to this, and let's have it out. Let's do it.
The age-old question, man. Kickers. Do you want to – who do we have? We have somebody in our league, a good buddy of ours, Baltimore Ravens fans. Every year, he'll draft Justin Tucker like in the first 10 rounds, and everyone just scratches their head like, what are you doing, man? But for the most part, everybody just waits a while, takes a kicker with their last pick. Some people don't even draft kickers. They just drop somebody later on before the season starts and then puts that little flyer in every week, see how it goes. I'm totally fine with it. You know, you can also always add some bonuses in there, 50-yard kicks or 10 points, 45-yard kicks. You can do penalties for missed kicks. Those are always fun. People get really angry about that, so it's good to stir the pot sometimes. I know that Jacob and I, myself, we play in a number of leagues where we don't have kickers or defenses. We find that the overwhelming amount of people just enjoy drafting those supreme skill position players and taking flyers on guys like those. So with that being said, it's entirely up to your league, man. That's a great question. Jacob, you got anything to add?
So it depends. Like we play in a redraft league that we've been playing in for almost a decade, and it's just a normal one quarterback redraft league. We have kicker defense. I would never want to take kicker out of that league because it feels very traditional the way the lineups are set up. And, kicker and defense special teams are so unpredictable. They kind of make leagues more fun in a way. But we play in a couple dynasty leagues, and if it's dynasty, do not include kickers and defenses. Honestly, there's kind of really no point. I mean, whatever, you can draft Justin Tucker and have him for his whole career. That's cool. But what are you really going to do? You're probably going to end up streaming both positions or just find a kicker and throw him in there. So I like them for redraft, traditional leagues, but not for any dynasty or keeper type leagues.
Gentlemen, those are great takes. I expected nothing less. I think the takeaway really is play with kickers if you enjoy an element of chaos and unpredictability. Mm-hmm. Cut them if you're just here for strategy and you really want to kind of award the kind of the best research, the best strategy in your drafts and your roster construction, because the kicker is just kind of a ticking time bomb that can go off some weeks, not other weeks. I get asked a lot by newer players why kickers don't go higher in drafts because they do score a lot of fantasy points. Like if you look at point totals, they're up there, but it's so unpredictable week to week, and there's not as much strategy involved as it is luck and game flow and things. So, Tommy, what do you think, man? Satisfactory answer?
Oh, that's a perfect answer. I was surprised that this, as far as my leagues are concerned, there's a majority who don't want kickers, but just to hearing like your support with the whole kicker situation, I thoroughly enjoyed that. And even just from like the strategy point of view and like this the statistic wise, as far as like how many tip points your kicker gets you every week and how it could be a make or break depending on if they have an off week or not. But in my personal opinion, when the kicker goes onto the field, the whole spotlight's on him. It's not like a unpredictable moment during the game where it's like, oh, we're gonna have a run play, a passing play. Will my receiver catch the ball? Will a touchdown be scored? But in that moment, all the eyes are on that kicker. So, for instance, if you have the most spectacular kicker in the league right now, Rodrigo Blankenship.
Yeah, that's my boy. I was gonna say, if you're gonna draft one kicker, make it Blankenship.
Roddy B, baby. Yeah. Well, that's good stuff, Tommy. And feel free to point any naysayers towards our show. Show them this episode and use that to support your argument.
Absolutely. I gotta run, guys. It's been nice talking to you, and
Thanks,
I look
man.
forward to hearing more about this in the future.
Yeah, please give us a call anytime. Thanks, Tommy.
Let me just say, Tommy Tommy and Greg could start their own podcast, or I think you just need to get Tommy on here, Greg. I mean,
Dude,
the most
don't
well-spoken
encourage him. Don't give him
individuals
any
I've ever
ideas.
met, and you guys had great points. I loved it, dude. I loved everything about the two of you.
Hey,
Just
one
now.
last thing on kickers. Nothing's better than a Monday night kicker when you're down by
Ooh.
10.
That
When
is
you're
the
done-
truth, man.
When you're done by 10, a Monday night kicker in your lineup, that's the best. So I kind of like having a kicker, but at the same time, not in Dynasty, like I said.
I feel like you either love it or you hate it. Nobody's really
Yeah.
impartial. We do have a few more callers in the queue, so we're going to keep them coming here.
Jacob, you're so right about that. I love having Monday
Mhm.
night kickers. I do it just for the fun and
Hey,
thrill.
caller, if you're on the line, you're on Fantasy Fanline. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Greg, this is Jim Coe from Jersey.
Jim Coe, how you doing, buddy?
Doing pretty well, thanks.
Welcome
First time.
Yeah, welcome to the show, man. What do you got for us?
I got a question about tight ends, Jacob. Wondering what you guys, and Gabe as well, what you guys think about top tier tight ends? Is Darren Waller in that tier yet? I kind of rank him above Mark Andrews this season, especially after how he did last year. Want to see what your thoughts are and how early you jump for somebody like Mark Andrews or Darren Waller.
Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah,
Take
it's
it away, guys.
It's a great question, man. And to start off, Jacob and I, surprisingly, because we talk fantasy football all the time, we're just talking about this topic with a few of our friends just a few weeks ago. And we were recalling one of our personal leagues specifically, and the fact that how many times over the last, let's just use Travis Kelce, for example. How many times over the last 6 or 7 years has someone reached for a guy like Travis Kelce, taken him in the second or third round? This year, he's currently going like early second round, right? And then gone on to win that championship. You're sacrificing so much for a value of a premier position player at tight end. But then you're missing out on those premier running backs, which become scarce, and things like that. So my point on it all, especially if you're talking about Darren Waller, I think he's there. I have Travis Kelce, Darren Waller, George Kittle. Jacob, I know you might feel differently about that, but Darren Waller has definitely supplanted himself as someone who's going to see a lot of volume from Derek Carr this year. He's going a little bit later than a guy like Travis Kelce. I feel comfortable taking Darren Waller, maybe in like the middle of the third, later of the third round. That way I can solidify maybe 2 premier running backs. Or a guy like George Kittle, which gives me a little bit more time because I do value the running back position so much. I don't know if I'm willing to take a guy like Kelce, even though very well he could outperform those running backs. It's just because position scarcity at the running back position is so scarce, you get nervous and you're like, do I want this cream of the crop tight end player because there's only one of them and there'll only ever be one? Knowing that, there might be a chance that your running backs are going to go down like flies because injuries are just so common at that position. So for me personally, I often see myself bypassing those top 3, and I like to take flyers. This year, a guy like Dallas Goedert, I love him in like the 6th round. I think he's going to be great this year. Just really giving me an opportunity to go after running backs that I enjoy, and more importantly, also additionally, wide receivers as well. So, Jacob, what do you got?
Yeah, so Darren Waller right now, he supposedly has an ankle injury, and he missed like eight days of practice or mini camp or whatever. And so it's tough right now to answer that question knowing that, because
if he was healthy, Jacob,
I strictly I avoid risk. So if I know a player's injured and we're unsure about it, I kind of avoid them. But prior to this news, I actually had Darren Waller number 2 overall in just a straight redraft league. You always go
Number 2 tight end,
Kelce.
to be clear.
Yeah, number 2 tight end overall. You always go Kelce number 1. He's borderline a first round pick depending on which league you play in. But if there was no injury concern, I would go Waller number 2, because if you look at the volume that he had last year, it's so high. He has no competition for targets, and he was winning matchups last year. Like, he was deciding factor in multiple matchups last week. I personally felt the effect of it against me. I love George Kittle. He's my dude. I'm a Niners fan, but I won't, I got to be honest. He scares me with the injuries. So I would always go Waller, and Waller doesn't have a significant injury history since he's been a tight end 1. But as far as Mark Andrews goes, I don't blame you for taking him in that 4th or 5th spot. But as long as Waller's all good to go by the start of the season, I definitely take him. I think he's in that top tier, and he could go number 2 easily.
Yeah, something else you also have to think about really quick is if you're talking specifically about Mark Andrews, Bateman, the rookie wide receiver, and Marquise Brown, both dealing with injuries early in the preseason, which only just heightens the value of a guy like Mark Andrews, who's probably, even with them healthy, was going to be, Lamar Jackson's number 1 target regardless. So.
Yeah, he's a big target share guy of a small pie over there. They don't throw quite as much as the other teams, but like you said, couple injuries over there opens the door for Mark Andrews. Just to expand on the Darren Waller injury a little bit, we don't have specifics. We know it's an ankle issue.
He's going to be fine.
Yeah, beat writers are indicating it's not a big deal, so don't let it scare you off until you hear anything otherwise. Jim, what do you think, man? Jim Cope, still on the line with us? He may have dropped off the call, but fortunately, those were great answers, and we do have other callers waiting, so let's get somebody in here. Who do we got? It's probably Jim trying to call back. Hey, caller, you are on the Fantasy Fanline. How you doing? What's your name? Where are you from?
Doing good. This is Steve, also known as Sanchi Value.
Sanchi
I'm
Value.
Getting the best value picks.
Oh, my.
You know me. You know. Told you I'd be calling in. Loving what you're doing. This is awesome.
Thanks,
Great
buddy.
to talk with people who are just as passionate about fantasy football as I am.
Glad to have you on. I'm going to throw up a comment that came in from Sanch a few minutes ago. Sanchzilla, 2 p.m. Music is so fire.
By the way, that whole intro was fire.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate that. Sanch, what's your
really
question,
is.
man?
I loved it. I have a format-specific question. Let's just say it's a full-point PPR league, and let's just say you have your pick at draft selection, and the top 3 picks are taken, usually, McCaffrey, Cook, and Kamara, since he's going to be like the only one getting volume apparently and going to run that whole offense. And that leaves 4 being very tricky. Derrick Henry, obviously, we know he's different, but he's in a standard league. It's a no-brainer at 4 with Henry, but he doesn't catch passes. The workload was scary last year. You never know when, it'll break down his body with the wear and tear. They got Julio. Maybe they're trying to run less and pass more. I'm just curious, would you rather have the 4 pick and get one of those guys, take Henry, or even reach for Devontae? I don't even say if it's a reach, but start off safe with a Tay Adams, or would you rather just have the wraparound in that situation and have the guys fall to you and then take 2 safe picks there instead of thinking so much at 4? You have to make the right choice. It's just a tough choice to me. I'm curious to hear your opinions on it.
It's a great question that I'm sure a lot of people have right now. Guys, what do you think?
Don't be scared of drafting Derrick Henry. People assume that, he's 27. He's coming off a season in which he had the most carries of his career. People just assume that because he's had this tremendous workload over the last 2 seasons that he will eventually fall off. It's not going to be this year. I can promise you that. Unless a devastating injury occurs, which, hey, knock on wood, you don't want that to happen. Derrick Henry finished as the number 3 running back in PPR last year. So to say that he's valuable in standard is one thing because he finished as the number 1 overall running back. But in PPR, finishing number 3 without passing game work, he's one of the only guys that can do that. I love Ezekiel Elliott as well, but a guy like Derrick Henry, the man is a beast. I think having Julio there only helps him more, helps Tannehill more, helps A.J. Brown more. This offense is exciting. I know that Arthur Smith departed and he's now the head coach over in Atlanta. Don't let that scare you from making these decisions in your draft day choices. Derrick Henry is the guy. I don't want to wait for the turn. I like the number 4 spot because you want to get the cream of the crop players, and Derrick Henry is one of them. So don't be afraid to touch on a guy like that.
Jacob, what do you think, man?
Yeah, I would like to give a significantly different answer, but I got to go with Derrick Henry too. And I recently did my running back rankings, and I just went to double check, and I have Derrick Henry at 4. And I go CMC, Cook, Kamara, Henry. Mm-hmm. And the only other 2 guys I would consider at that spot are probably Ezekiel Elliott, because I just think that he is going to be back to form. If you watch Hard Knocks, he looks really good right now. and he catches passes. So if you want, I think Zeke has a higher ceiling, to be honest, in full PPR. But I think the safer pick is Derrick Henry. And the other guy's Aaron Jones. I think people are sleeping on Aaron Jones. Maybe we'll talk more about that later. But yeah, if I have the 4th pick and I'm on the clock, I'm taking Derrick Henry.
You guys have a favorite spot to draft from this year if you had to pick?
Oh yeah, I mean 3 or 4, Kamara or Derrick Henry. I really, bias is a thing here, guys, and I like my cream of the crop running backs. I like to start off hot, and those are guys I would love taking.
You think there's a significant enough tier break in value to justify that over getting like 2 guys in the top, 14, 15 if you pick closer to the turn?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, especially at the running back position. After Derrick Henry, you have guys like Ezekiel Elliott, who represents a lot of high upside. He's done it before. After that, you have guys like Saquon Barkley, injury history. Not to say that I hate when people bring up the injury argument, because anybody can get injured at any given time. And it's just a sad,
I don't like to project injury, but I think that there's something to be said for lowering a player a little bit coming off a year of not being on a football field.
There's certain guys too, and if we're hearing that he might not start the year, so that's concerning as well.
Jacob, you like that 3-4 spot as well if you had to pick?
I'm torn. I do like the 4 spot because you get a top tier running back and then you come back around and get to pick before those 1, 2, 3 guys. But I gotta say, I prefer the back end of the draft. So depending on whether it's a 10-team league or a 12-team league, I actually really like the 10 or 12 spot, because the first round, look, there are those safety blankets in the first 4 or 5 picks. But if you can come away with 2 top 12, 13, 14 guys, I love the idea of that. And I've noticed sometimes some of these guys fall to you. Like I've seen Saquon fall to the number 11 pick. So if you can get somebody to fall to you and you get that second player and it's another stud, I love that.
That's a good example, Jacob. What happened last year in our personal league, right before we drafted, all this news came up about Alvin Kamara with his back issues. He fell all the way to the number 9 spot. That's where I picked him up. And then I had that turn. I picked up Michael Thomas. Obviously, that didn't turn out well, but I was able to.
It looked good at first.
Yeah, it looked good at first.
Kamara did all right last year for the back half of the first round. So, Sanch, you got a decision to make, man. What do you think?
I mean, you guys are making me want Henry more and more with that answer. It just, I don't know. I know I shouldn't be nervous, but something in my stomach tells me like he's not going to repeat what he did last year. I know he's a machine.
Is that because they brought in? Think it's because they brought in Julio? Or are you afraid they're going to pass more? I mean, they're not going to get less efficient.
I know he's different. That workload last year really scares me. I know he's built different.
I get it.
But I'll definitely be considering him.
Yeah, take some time, sleep on it.
One last point.
And I have one more thing for you. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, man. It's your time to shine.
All right. Well, I have I have something for Greg here.
Shoot.
I would like to propose the Fantasy Fanline Fan Challenge.
Uh-oh.
If that has a nice ring to it, I think that has a nice ring to it. And since we're very competitive and play in a very competitive league together, I would just like to have a little friendly wager about how we finish this year in the league we play in, and
putting it on the air so that I can't get out of it. I like it. I want to hear
this.
I want to slay the juggernaut. Mm-hmm. I know Greg knows what he's talking about, as do you guys, and it'd give me a lot of confidence if I could take him down. And just a little friendly wager. Like, if I can't finish better than you, you're still the juggernaut. But, for some reason I have a better year, I get some love on the air, and I'll be the first Fantasy Fanline Fan Challenge champion. I think that sounds good.
I think that's more than fair, man. We'll get you on the show. We'll get you a little digital trophy, a title belt, and all the bragging rights you can ever want, man. I mean,
just add a little spice.
This is all irrelevant because it's not going to happen.
This year. We'll see about that. We'll see. Well, if I take Derrick Henry, you can blame these guys for when I finish better.
Yeah, I'll have a strongly worded conversation with them at the end of the season if it pans out. But dude, thanks for calling. It was great to have you. I see that we have another caller, and Sanch, I'm sure we'll be talking to you plenty on the show this year, brother.
For sure, I'll be calling in. I'll be listening all year. This is awesome. Thank you guys for your time.
Hey,
have a great day. Right?
Thanks for calling in, man. Take it easy.
Thanks for calling in, man. Have a good one. Enjoy your weekend.
No problem. You as well.
All right. Good stuff. We got another caller coming in who's been on hold for about 10 minutes. This might be Jimco trying to reconnect. We'll see in a second. I don't know how much of his answer that he heard. Hey, caller, you're on Fantasy Fanline.
Hi, this is Horseshoe Devotee from the Jersey Shore. You can call me Horse.
What's up, Horse?
And I wanted to call in. And talk about my beloved Colts.
Please do.
Nice.
What's on your mind?
All right. Huge issue.
Oh,
I
boy.
think Jonathan Taylor is a front-end talent. He's obviously getting looked at as a late first-round pick in most fantasy leagues.
Mm-hmm.
The thing I'm wondering is I keep wanting to, if I have a late pick in the first round, I think it's a no-brainer. But then I'm thinking Marlon Mack. I'm thinking Nyheim Hines. I'm thinking when Carson Wentz gets back, he's going to vulture some RPO touchdowns. I'm thinking Quentin Nelson's got knee issues. Am I overthinking it? If I have a shot at a Devontae Adams, if I have a shot at an Antonio Gibson, am I even thinking those guys, or am I going straight for a Jonathan Taylor?
Before I hand this over to you guys, just for context, Jonathan Taylor ADP right now, the back of the first round, the 112 exactly. So, Gabe,
Wow.
what do you think?
The 112. Yeah, I mean, a very educated Colts fan. Quentin Nelson out. You also have Carson Wentz out. The latest news, though, out of Indianapolis was that both of them should be back by week 1, and that was kind of surprising considering that the initial timeline for Carson Wentz was 5 to 12 weeks. So people were really worried about Jacob Eason stepping in there and then just plummeting the value of everybody associated with that offense. Quentin Nelson, too, just being that huge body up front that's been able to really sustain good running back volume there, or at least fantasy volume for those running backs, regardless of, player. At the 112 turn, holy cow, man. I'm looking at other guys that you could get there. Tyreek Hill, Austin Eckler. I love Austin Eckler that so far this year. If he falls that far, he's going around the 110. So this is a 12-man league, and we're deciding between someone like Tyreek Hill, Jonathan Taylor. I've said it time and time again. I love my running backs. I do see a significant tier break probably after Derrick Henry. Guys like Aaron Jones, Nick Chubb. They don't scare me necessarily, but there are or have been shown that there are other guys there that will impede, whether it's rushing touchdowns at the goal line, passing downs work like Kareem Hunt, A.J. Dillon. But I just think that Tyreek Hill, you start to get into that range, man. And that is the biggest boom guy you could have on your team. So starting your draft off with a guy like Tyreek Hill and then maybe picking someone up like Robert Woods and then stealing another running back there, maybe like, I don't know, a Joe Mixon if he falls a little bit into like the later half of the second round, is a phenomenal start. But that's entirely up to you. You're a Colts fan. So if the bias is there, take your man and hope for the best, man. He should be doing great. I'm not too scared about Nyheim Hines. I know that he's been involved a lot over the last couple of years. Marlon Mack's coming back from the ACL injury, or the Achilles injury, I should say. There have been reports that that's going to be a committee backfield, but tried and true last season at the end of the year, Taylor just took hold of that offense and ran away with it. So if this team really wants to compete, they're going to put their best players out on the field, and their best running back is Jonathan Taylor.
Absolutely. Jacob, what do you think?
Yeah, so I've gone up and down with Taylor, and of course the Carson Wentz and Quentin Nelson thing affect my overall feelings on him. But after like a couple weeks of thinking about it, I just think we got to not overthink this one too much. He's the man there. He's a freaking monster, a physical specimen, and he's going to get his no matter what because he's very talented and he's going to get the workload. I personally have him at running back 7, which means I have him above Nick Chubb and I have him above Saquon Barkley. And it's not that I think he's a better running back than those guys. I just think their situations with the competition of Kareem Hunt and with the injury concerns with Saquon, I feel a lot safer with Jonathan Taylor. Yes, his offensive lineman, who's the best in the league, arguably, is out. Might be back week 1, might be back week 5. We'll see. Yes, his quarterback is out, but were we really expecting Carson Wentz to light it up right away and positively affect Jonathan Taylor that much? I personally don't think. I think it was a factor, but I don't think it was going to be much of a different factor opposed to Phillip Rivers. So I feel really good about Jonathan Taylor. Maybe I take a Adams or a Kelsey over him, but as far as running backs go, I feel very good about taking him over Chubb and Saquon, guys like that.
You know, I think there's a kind of a difference in perception of Carson Wentz among like casual fans who knew that Carson Wentz was really good, like really recently, because he was. Just a few years ago, he was lighting the league on fire. And anyone who's really been paying attention to the Eagles, I think over the last couple of years, has tempered expectations for what Carson Wentz can bring to the Colts. But I think that Quentin Nelson was the bigger hit to Jonathan Taylor's security for me. Horse, what do you think, man?
Well, I'm wondering more about, if I have a 111, because at the 112, I'm getting the Serpentine and I'm getting the 2 picks there. So at a 111, you're saying I have to go Tyreek Hill. I have to go, with a Kelsey over Jonathan Taylor. And if I lose Jonathan Taylor on the snake, maybe I can get a guy like an Eckler.
I would take Taylor at 111.
That's basically the situation.
Yeah, I think I never gave a straightforward answer. I would take Taylor as well, especially at the turn. You could come back with another guy like Najee, who's expected to see tons of volume this year. He may not be good because that line is atrocious, but he's going to get so much volume that he's going to be good for your fantasy team. So starting off your 1-2 punch and solidifying the running back core at the beginning of your draft with Jonathan Taylor and Najee is fantastic.
And you know what, man? If you're on the fence and you need a tiebreaker, you're a Colts homer. Draft the one that you're going to have more fun watching this year. That's what the game's about.
Very true. That's why I draft Darren Waller first overall every year.
I don't know if I can endorse that. I take back what I just said.
No, but that's a good point. Use it as a tiebreaker at least. Who are you going to enjoy watching most?
Yeah. Hey, Horse, you happy with that answer, man?
I appreciate it, guys.
I'm
very happy. Thank you, guys. I appreciate the advice.
Do you have a few minutes, Horse, or are you in a rush? We don't have anyone else on the line here.
No, I have a few. I did have a backup question.
Let's go.
Shoot. By all means.
Yeah. So I'm actually more into college football than I'm into pro football.
Nice.
So, so obviously, I'm looking at the Trevor Lawrences who I've seen them play 20 games in college and light it up. I'm not as high on Zach Wilson based on what I saw in college, but I actually don't know until you see it. Trey Lance, we might not see him for a few weeks. What players do you think on either the Jaguars or the Jets are going to be positively or negatively impacted based on playing with a rookie quarterback? And I understand Trevor Lawrence is not your typical rookie quarterback coming into the NFL. He's probably the most hyped quarterback in about 10 years, but who do you see really benefiting or not benefiting from these two guys?
It's a great question, and it's funny because I feel like every 3 or 4 years there's a most hyped quarterback in 10 years, and I don't really know how that math works out. But I think a lot of people see a high draft pick come into a new place and expect them to instantly turn the franchise around, and everyone's going to be great the next year. And I think that is a misperception. Gabe, what do you think?
It's funny. Jacob and I, we play in a few dynasty leagues together, and every year it's the norm that dynasty leagues happen early, like June, July, they happen. So we build our hype for these rookie players because it's only 5 rounds. And the hype is so real that in our minds, it becomes inflated that these guys are just going to do tremendous things. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. Not everybody is going to come in and light up the world week 1, week 2, maybe even their first year. And we've seen that countless times again and again from past, quarterbacks. Tom Brady was a 6th-round pick. He didn't get to start until a little bit later into his rookie season, and it wasn't that great. Look what he's become, right? So these are high draft capital players. Zach Wilson is a guy that you could probably take a flyer on. No one's going to be drafting him, until later in drafts if you want to take a flyer. I know that Jacob's a big fan of Robert Saleh, the new head coach there, the culture that he brings with a new, a new regime. And I'm a big fan of him too. I love what he did with that San Francisco defense. I love the culture that he brings. I'm excited for what Zach Wilson could be, but no way am I touching him in fantasy this year. So if that doesn't necessarily correlate with fantasy success of his weapons, I mean, we could talk about a guy like Teddy Bridgewater last year who finishes the QB 19, yet sustained 3 top 26 wide receivers. Just because your quarterback is not good doesn't mean you can provide value elsewhere. With that being said, specifically in New York, Corey Davis is someone who you can get late 8th or 9th round. Elijah Moore is a touted rookie. He's actually dealing with some injury concerns right now, so hopefully that doesn't hinder his his ADP or anything like that. At the running back position, Tevin Coleman, Michael Carter. Nothing really excites me there too much, other than Michael Carter could see ton of dump off potential, and that helps his PPR value. So I'm not overly excited in redraft leagues about any New York Jet. And then Jacob, if you want to talk about New York, or if you want to touch on Trevor Lawrence for me, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, so I kind of have 2 answers for each. And I actually think the 2 players from each team that are going to benefit heavily from both quarterbacks are the rookie running backs that were drafted alongside of them this year. I think Michael Carter is going to benefit heavily from playing with Zach Wilson, because Michael Carter is a very, very talented pass catching back. And I think once, plays break down, the offensive line breaks down, when Zach Wilson scrambles or gets out of the pocket, he's going to look for Michael Carter. And I actually think Michael Carter is going to take, not necessarily that he's going to get the most carries and be the best running back on the team, but I think he's going to be the best fantasy option for running backs on the team due to playing with Zach Wilson. And then Trevor Lawrence, I think Travis Etienne is going to heavily benefit from playing with him because they played together at Clemson together. And I've heard reports out of camp that he's looking for Etienne a lot, throwing to him a lot. So I think that those 2 guys are being heavily undervalued even in redrafts, in my opinion. If we're talking about players that are on the team currently, I think that they're going to look towards the alpha wide receivers on their teams. And in my opinion, those are Corey Davis and I think DJ Chark. I know Laviska Shenault is getting a lot of hype, and DJ Chark is actually banged up a little bit right now. But if DJ Chark can stay healthy, I think Lawrence is going to be looking for him a lot. And I think Wilson is going to be looking for Corey Davis a lot.
Yeah.
Is Marvin Jones being undervalued right now in Jacksonville?
100%.
I think so.
100%.
One of my favorite late round sleepers.
Yeah.
Because wasn't he a top 20 wide receiver last year? And nobody talked about him that way?
He somehow always is. He's always kind of the quietest guy who sneaks into that top. Yeah. And
Galladay being out helped him a lot, but still.
I think it usually comes on the back of a couple of boom games because he's not usable most of the season, and every once in a while he'll come in and light it up. So maybe a good guy for best ball this year.
Best ball. Absolutely. Or a flex spot if you need it. I'd touch on Michael Carter really quick. You want guys in the later rounds that represent high upside. And when you're looking in the end of the 6th round, early of the 7th round, where Michael Carter is right now, you'd much rather have him over a guy like Melvin Gordon, right? You want that high upside as opposed to a safe floor that Melvin Gordon might be able to give you, even though he's being, impeded by Javonte Williams, the new running back. So that isn't the same scenario with Travis Etienne. I'd rather have him over someone like Hunt, but you have to spend an earlier draft capital on him somewhere early in the 5th round. So for me, it's all about value, and I just look at what the field represents where that draft pick falls. And for me, both of them fall if you're looking for running backs at that time, because there are wide receivers there as well. But the wide receiver class is so deep year in and year out. And those guys both have high upside as opposed to a very, very low floor. So I like taking them.
Well said, Gabe. Horse, thoughts? It's a sentence I thought I'd never
really
say.
Appreciate that. No, Carter's a guy that would have completely slipped my mind, and that's probably, a solid pick in, some later rounds. I mean, for a guy who could potentially become, probably already is the RB1 for his team. If Zach Wilson's going to be a check down Charlie, you're not a
Tevin Coleman believer.
No, I'm not. I mean,
that was a rhetorical question mostly.
5 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe in the first couple of years in Atlanta, but trust me, I'm a Niners fan. I watched most of his games. No.
Well, look,
He's
Horse.
fooled enough of us.
Oh, go ahead, man.
He's fooled enough of us into drafting him earlier than we should the last few years. We won't get fooled again.
The king of unfulfilled potential and hype, really, especially in Atlanta. But listen, we're gonna play a game here, and Horse, you're welcome to stick around and join us if you like. And if you have to go, thanks for calling in. What was that? Anyone else just hear a little chime?
I was like, I thought it was part of your show, man. I don't know.
No, Horse,
I thought it was the game starting.
Horse, buddy, are you still here?
Maybe it was him hanging up.
I think that's what it was. I think he heard game and he was like, absolutely not.
He doesn't play games. He's all about business.
He called in for serious conversation and serious conversation only. So I'm going to.
That was a good question though, about the Jags and the Jets for sure.
Yeah, really good
question.
That
was an excellent question. I dropped the whole show. Hold that thought. Just want to make sure people can still call and join us. Gentlemen, I am going to put a question on the screen and disappear for a second, and you are free to speak to it.
Is that the game?
Let's do it.
No, the game will start momentarily.
Okay.
The game is fine, Greg. Where did
Take a few minutes and chat through this.
Okay, so I mentioned this, earlier, and
let's read it really quick. Speaking of Aaron Jones, why is he undervalued year after year? How many top 5 finishes? I don't know.
He's had at least 2 in the past 2 years, and look, I think
at least 2 in the last 2 years. So 2 in the last 2 years.
Well, yeah, he's had 2 in the last 2 years. Yeah. Okay, I meant to say he's had at least 2, being the last 2 years. But I will say, I think really the uncertainty of Aaron Rodgers coming back really put like a negative cloud above Aaron Jones, and I think it's still taking time for ADP to catch up to him. So I think that's really what it is. And honestly, I think it's kind of became a permanent dark cloud over Aaron Jones, at least for this season. And I think it's preventing him from being considered in the top 5 running backs or top 4 running backs because, you can't go wrong. There's only a handful of guys that are going to get, a majority of the work and are considered the true workhorse of the team. And Aaron Jones is one of them. So I'm super happy if I get Aaron Jones with the 6th pick in my draft or even anytime in the 6th or beyond.
Yeah. Wait, the 6th round or the 6th
No,
pick?
6th pick
Gotcha.
overall.
Sorry.
Like anywhere in the 1st round, 6th pick and beyond, I'm totally happy with getting him.
Yeah, man. And, sometimes it's really easy to overthink things, but when all else fails, just follow the money. And the guy got paid this summer. And
True.
You don't pay someone a lot of money to just not utilize him the way that he needs to be utilized. Jamal Williams departs. Insert A.J. Dillon. I don't think he's going to provide – he's not a pass catcher. He might still goal line work from Aaron Jones, but that just means that Aaron Jones is going to see more pass catching work now that Javonte Williams is gone.
Yeah, if you think of it that way, if you just move all of Jamal Williams' pass catching work, most of it, to Aaron Jones, and maybe he's rushing less end zone carries, like you said, Gabe, but it's a good way to look at it.
We could look the last 2 years, I think we just talked about it, right? The top 3, right? Running back at the position, or at least top 5. With that being said, there are games, and I think this also falls back into people's minds occasionally, is he's had very explosive games, and he's also been almost completely absent. And sometimes that can scare fantasy players into drafting somebody, especially with a 1st-round pick. He was pretty consistent last year, but I remember specifically in 2019, even though he had a high finish, there were at least 2 games where he was just like non-existent on the field. I think like 5 and 7 fantasy points respectively. So those are things you have to consider. You want that consistency, but when there's a guy that explosive, I mean, that's what you need. That's what you want. That's who's there. I am completely fine taking him with the 6th, 7th, 8th pick. If you want to reach for him and take him at 5 over somebody like, a Zeke, that's okay with me too.
As reluctant as I am to give any positive credit to any Packers as a Bears fan, I have to agree with you, man. He's being criminally undervalued, and he's going to come out and he's going to be great, just like he is every year, and I'm going to be miserable because of it. But that's what's going to happen. I mean, every year it seems like the Packers put up impossible to repeat efficiency numbers, and then they just do it again because that's what they do. Because life as a Bears fan is hard. So, great question, great answers. We are going to move on to a game segment. We don't appear to have any callers on the line. If anybody calls, they're welcome to join us. But we're gonna move on to a part of our show called Roto Olympics, which I will build a drop with the sound effect for next time. But I thought of it right before the show, and I didn't have time to do it today. So we're gonna play a different game on the air related to fantasy football every week. And this week's edition of Roto Olympics features 2 truths and a lie. Do you guys know how that game works?
Oh yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, so I'm going to tell you 3 pieces of information, and you're going to let me know which one of them is the lie. So this is all related in honor of draft season. This is all related to metrics from the 2020 season to help us kind of get an idea of some things to keep in mind as we head into our draft. So the first set of facts is about receptions. The first fact, the only 2 running backs to crack the top 25 in receptions amongst all players in 2020 were Alvin Kamara and J.D. McKissick.
That's true.
Well.
Oh wait, was I supposed to wait?
We'll
Sorry.
see. Yeah. I'll read you all 3. But you're welcome to offer your opinion as we go here. I really just paused for dramatic effect. The second fact: Travis Kelce finished with the most catches at the tight end position in 2020. Fact number 3: Juju Smith-Schuster finished among the top 10 in receptions amongst all players in 2020. Guys, what do you think? Where's the lie?
It's got to be the Travis Kelce one.
Yes,
the
Travis Kelce one. I was gonna say number 2. Yeah.
That's okay, man. Yeah, it is the Travis Kelce one. That one was kind of a softball. It was the obvious one, I think, just to get you started. But yeah, he finished number 2.
Is it Waller?
It's Darren Waller with 107. Waller had 107. Kelce had 105. But yeah, J.D. McKissick, top 25 in catches. He had 80 catches. He was 23rd amongst all players.
That's not a bad 2 truths and a lie. It's just that last year, a buddy of ours had J.D. McKissick and I had Antonio Gibson. So every single week I was looking at J.D. McKissick's stats. That's the only reason why I know that, because he was just poaching every passing down work. Yeah. And then Juju Smith-Schuster is my guy. He's my guy.
Yeah, he was number 9, 97 receptions. I feel like not a lot of people are aware of that.
He's so underrated, to be honest.
Well, he finished with only 831 yards on almost 100 catches. So that's really what knocked him down. But 9 touchdowns. So, we'll see what happens. Our second batch is targets related. The first one, Deontay Johnson, keeping it with the Steelers receivers. Deontay Johnson finished the year with more targets than Chris Godwin and Antonio Brown combined. I know they only played limited games. Just for context, Deontay played 15. The Bucs receivers combined for 20 games. So just something to consider.
Okay.
Allen Robinson is the only player from last year's top 3 most targeted players in all positions who is currently being drafted outside of the first 2 rounds in 2021.
Who is that player?
Allen Robinson.
Okay, gotcha.
My hero. Third fact, although they all played 16 games, Russell Gage saw more red zone targets in 2020 than Stephon Diggs, DK Metcalf, and Amari Cooper. Where's the lie? This is a tough one.
I want to go with number 3. So we have a different answer.
Yeah.
So Gabe says number 2, the Allen Robinson one. Jacob says number 3. It is the first one. You guys both missed that one, but this is a tough one. So I'll give you some context. Deontay Johnson saw 144 targets in 15 games, which is ridiculous. Godwin and Antonio Brown combined for 145, so only one more. It's kind of a trick question.
So I was like, "There's no way that," and it's so close though. So that's
it was close. I really just put that in there to illustrate that he is going mid 5th round right now as the wide receiver 21, and he had about as many targets in 15 games as those 2 Bucs receivers did. On the Super Bowl winning team last year in 20 games. So Deontay Johnson, kind of a great value.
Antonio Brown, he did only play. He started in week 8. That's when he came on. So I understand that. That's a great question. But also, shout out to Antonio Brown. Huge sleeper of mine this year. I think he's going to be great at his value.
I'm sure he'll appreciate that shout out. He's a big listener on our show.
Yeah. Can he call in? That'd be cool.
Maybe.
I'll text him for you guys.
Yeah, we'll find somebody who's connected. So you guys each have 1 point from the first question. We'll make it a competition. Whoever finishes
I'm
first
mad
gets the first ever Roto Olympics gold medal on
Oh,
Fantasy
this is
Fanline.
good. Let's go. Come on.
Put that in your Twitter bio. So, last and final question is about draft value discrepancies, things that I noticed that were big differences in value versus how they did last year. So, everybody knows David Montgomery had an amazing second half of 2020, right? He was the number 4 running back between like weeks 8 to 16, finished number 6 on the season. But he's currently being drafted in 2021 below where he finished the first half of the season. So the big knock on Montgomery last year was, he had a bad week 1 through 8. That's his floor. It was no good. He's currently being drafted below where he was in the first half. So that's the first fact. Second fact, Aaron freaking Rodgers, the bane of my existence, is the only quarterback being drafted behind at least 3 quarterbacks who he outscored in points per game last season. The only one being drafted behind 3 quarterbacks he beat. Third fact, the last time Christian McCaffrey played a full season in 2019, you could have divided his total PPR points in half and still had a top 12 running back. So basically he was himself 2 top 12 running backs.
Huh.
What was the first one again?
The first one was David Montgomery is currently being drafted below the running back ranking, the positional ranking where he finished the first half of last season, where everybody thought he was terrible.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go with number 1 is the lie.
That's my lie.
We have the same answer, so
Okay, that is actually true. I hate to break it to you guys. He is going RB 18 in 2021. By the first half of the year last year, he was RB 15. So
okay,
everybody kind of considered
up
him
recently in ADP.
I thought he was too, man. I checked it this morning, and that is a screaming tragedy that he's going that late right now. I think he's the biggest value at the position.
Me too. Honestly, I've been saying all offseason, this David Montgomery is so underrated for fantasy.
Guys, there have been 2,000 mock drafts in the last 20 minutes, and David Montgomery actually hurt his ankle at the start, very first carry of the game, just a few minutes ago. So technically, we could have been right, Jacob. We could have been right.
Well, I'm gonna end the show right here and go drown my sorrows in whiskey. But that might be correct by the time people. By the time people listen to this tomorrow, that one might be true. But the McCaffrey fact was also true. He did combine or score 2 total top 12 running backs himself single-handedly. Yeah. And everybody obviously is taking him number 1 overall. I didn't really bring that fact up to push his ADP, but just a interesting piece of information. According to ESPN's 2021 PPR salary cap cheat sheet for people who play in salary cap drafts, and I assume a lot of people use ESPN as a reference, he's valued at $62, and the running back 12, Najee Harris, is valued at $40. So
wow,
just something to consider. He doubled the RB12 score last time he played a full season. So whatever you're paying for Christian McCaffrey, probably worth it. The lie was the Aaron Rodgers one. He is, in fact, being drafted behind 3 people who he outscored points per game last year, and that is Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, and Kyler Murray. But he's not the only one. Ryan Tannehill, going in the 9th round, is also being drafted behind Jalen Hurts, Tom Brady, and Matt Stafford, who he all beat in points per game last year. Dude, I am having such a hard time taking an early quarterback this year because Tannehill's always there. He's always there at the end.
Don't be afraid to take Tannehill, dude. The last 2 years, he's been tremendous. Don't hesitate. Take him where if he's there, you take him.
Yeah, he and Brady are great values right now. Rodgers, I think, his ADP is still kind of catching up from the news that he was maybe thinking of leaving Green Bay. I was praying for it every day. Didn't pan out this year. Maybe next season, but I don't know that he's not going to be drafted higher by the time we get to like early September.
Very true.
So you guys both finished with 1 correct answer. That is admirable. These questions were hard. It is a tie. I do have a bonus tiebreaker question.
Let's do it.
We'll see if either of you know this. This one is not so much stat related. It's more just history of our beloved game. So, in honor of the Roto Olympics, do either of you know where the term Roto comes from in fantasy? We've all been seeing it for years and just kind of being like, yeah, that checks out, Roto, fantasy football. I never looked it up until this morning.
You know what's so funny?
Google.
I'm a big Matthew Berry fan, and he pushes this Roto World package that he does every year.
Roto World, there's lots of great shows out there
always
with Roto.
What the hell does Roto mean? And I should have looked it up a long time ago, but I don't know.
Well, buckle up because you're about to learn something that I learned about an hour and a half ago. So apparently, Dan Okrent, shout out to Dan Okrent. He was a magazine editor who dreamed up the format for modern fantasy baseball in 1980. He and several friends from sports media held their very first draft at a restaurant they frequented in Manhattan called La Rotisserie Francaise. And they named the game after the restaurant where they had their draft. So there you go, guys.
Wow.
Reactions to that stunning piece of news?
I love history, man. I just know more history about our beloved game. Like you said, I'm informed.
All right, we're going to take a couple of rapid fire mailbag questions here. We got about 5 minutes left, and let's breeze through them. So
Sweet, man.
you can visit fantasyfanline.com if you can't join us live for the broadcast to call in. You can ask your questions ahead of time in the mailbag. Our first question, and again we'll keep these short. Is Drew Lock good enough to make any of the Broncos' weapons matter? From Thomas in PA.
No.
Do we even know Drew Lock is the starter? Like,
No, we don't.
You sent this question in the notes. I did a little bit of research, and I was going to say Cortland Sutton, but if you look at the last 5 games that Drew Lock played well in 2019, Cortland Sutton didn't do great other than like week 13 against the Chargers when he had 2 touchdowns. So
Agreed.
he didn't do really well. So no.
I think no is a sufficient answer to scare people off from drafting Broncos weapons. But we do have a last minute caller coming in here. I'm going to see if I can patch him in. Hey, caller, you're on Fantasy Fanline. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Chris calling from New Jersey.
Chris, what's going on, buddy? What's on your mind?
Hey, Greg. Nice to hear you.
Nice to hear you.
Be on the show.
Yeah, you're on with Gabe and Jacob. Pick their brains. You got about 4 minutes.
Cool. Yeah. So, in fantasy draft prep mode, want to talk quarterbacks with you guys. So I'm wondering, a lot of times there's the obvious QB1s who everyone's going after, but a lot of times there's these guys who most people are targeting as QB2s this time of year who wind up balling out in the season and could be the kind of guys who help you win your league if you're the smart one who grabs them, kind of like Lamar Jackson a few years ago. So I'm wondering, what are some guys on your radars who are mostly being targeted in the teens right now who do have crazy upside, who you think could become someone who just, if you pick them like Lamar Jackson a couple years ago, you basically were the winner of your league if you got that guy in the 10th round.
Chris, that is a perfectly timed question. We just finished talking about kind of Ryan Tannehill, Tom Brady as the last guys that you'd feel comfortable taking as your QB1. So who are we looking at as QB2s a little farther down the ADP board?
Ryan Tannehill was a big one. And shout out to you for, I think you were talking about drafting Lamar Jackson at some point, or the people who were league winners. A couple of years ago, we started a dynasty league, and everybody was giving me crap for drafting Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. Those guys don't even throw. What are you doing? And look what they've become. So I marveled in that madness. That was exciting. Guys who I like that are late, you can't be too if you want to take a dart throw on a guy like a rookie going Trevor Lawrence, currently going in the 11th round, he represents somebody who could have high upside, but also could present you many troubles throughout the season. So I wouldn't take a shot on that. But Matt Ryan, tried and true. That offense is what it is. He's going to throw the ball 600 times. That defense is not going to be good. So he's always going to be playing catch up, and you just kind of know what he represents in terms of value. So I love Matt Ryan. I'm not a big fan of a guy like Baker Mayfield currently going in the 12th round. I shy away from him. I think that running game is really good, and I think that's what they're going to lean on. Justin Fields is tremendous just because of his rushing capability. If Andy Dalton decides to take an absence, Justin Fields is the man.
Couldn't agree more, Gabe.
I want to go back and watch this Bears game in just a little bit to see how he did, because right when we were starting the show, he was taking his reps to get in the game. So, but his, rushing QBs.
Just led a scoring drive. I'm watching it now.
Oh,
How's it
nice. Is he doing good?
He just led a scoring drive.
That's my quarterback.
There we go, baby.
Eventually.
Yeah, I'm excited.
This is an
Bears
easy answer
fans.
for me. This is
Go
an
ahead.
easy answer for
go ahead,
me.
Jacob. I talked too much.
There's a rookie quarterback you did not mention, and that is Trey
God.
Lance. I will tell you what, Trey Lance could be a league winner this year, because if tomorrow they said Trey Lance is going to be the starter week 1, I guarantee you his ADP would skyrocket in redraft. So if you're drafting him with your last pick in your draft, last couple picks in your draft now, you're getting ahead of the curve and taking him because he's going to get so much rushing work. He's going to be making these long passes. We know Kyle Shanahan's offense is extremely efficient. So I just think this guy is going to go crazy once he gets the starting job. And it's going to be in the first 6 to 8 games. I think we're going to see Trey Lance take over. So Trey Lance is my answer.
Jacob,
And
that's
there's still,
Go ahead.
sorry, I think there's still a non-zero chance that Jimmy G gets traded before the season starts. Like that,
Yeah,
that
I think
could happen.
either Jimmy G gets traded or gets injured or Trey Lance outplays him. I think it's going to happen early in the season.
Jacob, that's a horrible take. Let me take 10 seconds and give an even more horrible take. Cam Newton, you can just pick him up off of waivers. Look, we know Mac Jones is the future year there. Last year, Cam Newton was the QB 16. Bill Belichick offense in a COVID offseason, he had to catch up. That's one of the most complicated offenses in the playbook. If he's here year 2 and he plays before he goes crappy, 12 rushing touchdowns last year, he could easily see that and more if he represents a high passing upside. I'm just saying, Cam Newton is a deep sleeper. Take a shot.
Thank you, Gabe. That's why people tune into this show for crappy and crappier takes. Chris, what do you think, man? Like those answers?
Those are some good ones. Thanks, guys. Definitely got me some stuff to think about heading into my draft.
All right, dude.
Absolutely.
Thanks for calling in. Hope to hear from you next time.
Take care.
Later, man. So, I know we were trying to keep this to an hour sharp. Do we want to take just another minute or two to do some yes/no answers on some of these mailbag questions?
Sure.
Just
Oh,
burn
of course,
through
man.
them.
Yeah.
Give the people their answers. All right. This is a good one. Are you in on Mecole Hardman as a flyer from Aaron in New Jersey? Rapid
Jacob?
fire, top of your head.
It
I'd say no.
depends.
I'd say no.
Depends,
Brandon Cooks is going around the same ADP, tried and
Yeah.
true, 1,000
Look,
yard receiver. I don't care who's throwing the ball.
most regular redraft leagues are very shallow benches, so no.
Yeah, I don't love him personally just because there hasn't been a lot of value at the wide receiver 2 spot in the Chiefs offense in the past. I know that it seems like there would be, but Travis Kelce is kind of the 1A, 1B with Tyreek Hill over there. So I don't think that there's enough really for him consistently as a best ball guy. Absolutely, he's going to have those games where he blows up, but I wouldn't draft him as a flex starter. Gabe.
I was just going to say, Mahomes has never supported a wide receiver 2. It's always been Kelce, Tyreek Hill. Week in and week out, it's either Watkins, Pringle, Mecole Hardman. You don't want to take your chance on a guy like that when
Chiefs haven't
Brandon
had
Cooks
a
is right
wide
there
receiver
for
2
you.
in a long time.
Yeah. All right. A couple more quick ones. From Jung in Florida. If you had to pick one first rounder right now who is most likely to bust, who would it be? And
I'm going to say this by starting and saying that I do not like to predict anybody to bust. I wish fantasy football was a sport where everybody could just score tons of points and one week someone just scores more than the other. I mean, that's how fantasy works, right? But in terms of busting, it's got to be Saquon Barkley. It just
Same.
Same.
Good pick. That is not a projection that he will bust, but just to
No,
be clear,
no.
if we had to take the most likely one, let's see. We'll do one more simple one here.
Man, keep them going.
All right, we'll do a couple more if you guys are cool sticking around. From Shane in New York, who is the community the most wrong about ADP wise right now? That could be, I guess,
That's the toughest one, man.
too high, too low. Just somebody who comes to mind as either a value or a big landmine in drafts right now.
CeeDee Lamb.
Oh,
CeeDee Lamb is
in which direction?
I was going to say Amari Cooper.
He's too low. CeeDee Lamb's too low. CeeDee Lamb is being drafted 34th overall, wide receiver 12. I think he's going to be a top 8 wide receiver this year.
Oh my, Gabe,
I'm a big Lamb guy.
defend your Amari Cooper take.
Yeah, man. I was going to say Amari Cooper. I think he represents tremendous value. What he was able to do last year with Dak Prescott before he got hurt is incredible. Dak Prescott is going to be throwing the ball a lot this year, and people just assume that CeeDee Lamb is going to take that next step, and I don't disregard that. I think they are both going to have good value, but CeeDee Lamb is currently going ahead of Amari Cooper. I'd rather have the guy that's later in value, who I think is still going to represent the same upside.
That's a good point.
So that's Amari Cooper for me.
Yeah, I will hedge my bet and just say that I think that whoever emerges as the top dog in Dallas this year is going to be great.
Yeah, you should have just went and get Michael Gallup, and we could have been had a. But no, another shout out to Cooper Kupp. He's going a wide receiver 20. I think he's arguably could be a wide receiver 1 this year.
Well, that's a good transition to this question. Can you make a clear case to draft either of the Rams wide receivers first? Or are you just taking the one that falls later from Allen, California? So are you taking Cooper Kupp over Robert Woods? Are you just taking the value?
I am personally. I have Kupp at 13 and Robert Woods at number 20. Look, I don't know why. I just always been a Kupp guy over Woods. They're both, it's so weird. It's one where either one could finish higher than the other. Like, you never know really. And most teams, who's going to finish higher than each other on other teams. But this one's
it was just a couple of years ago that Cooper Kupp spent the first half of a season looking like he was the number one overall receiver.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. We've seen wide receiver number 1 overall potential from Cooper Kupp. We haven't seen that from Robert Woods and the touchdown upsides for Kupp. So that's my answer.
With that being said, I'll paint you this scenario. All right, given their current ADP, I'm going to give you 4 players. Let me just know who you like more. All right. Here's one scenario: Dalvin Cook, Tyreek Hill, David Montgomery, Robert Woods. Or would you rather start off with Nick Chubb, DK Metcalf, DeAndre Swift, and Cooper Kupp? Who would you rather start with? Given their ADP, this is like the ideal situation that you would come across in your draft. So if you had the 3rd overall pick, you would come across a guy like, or 2nd overall pick, you'd come across a guy like Dalvin Cook, probably wrap around at the turn. Or actually, no. Wait a second.
Yeah, you'd be at the back half of that.
You'd be at the back end. Okay, my scenario is completely out the door.
It sounded great though.
It was going into the scenario whereas if you draft someone like Tyreek Hill, what's his name? Robert Woods is a model of consistency. So yes, you all like to reminisce on Cooper Kupp's tremendous 2019 year, I believe it was, or 2018.
Yeah, something like
Cooper Kupp is tried and true. He's not.
I think that's the right answer. I think it's a roster construction question.
Yeah.
I think that if you need somebody safe, I would go Robert Woods. If you need the upside, if you maybe punted wide receiver, you went running back heavy in the first couple rounds, you need somebody with that upside. Take a shot on Cooper Kupp. I don't think that he has much of a floor. I know that he has disappeared in the past, but Matthew Stafford coming
his ceiling's probably higher. And with Stafford there, we don't know. But honestly, there's the potential there for both of these guys to be a wide receiver 1. Like, I honestly believe that.
Sure. All right, we'll take one more question here. Who is the last running back you feel comfortable drafting as your 1? Thanks. You're welcome.
That's a tough question.
So polite. So heading into draft season here, let's say you go, wide receiver first round or Travis Kelce at the back of the first. Who are you looking at to kind of take your shot on for your RB1 on your team?
Jacob, I've been going first the whole day. I'll let you take this one first.
Yeah,
what a gentleman.
It is tough. I think I gotta go probably with Najee Harris, to be honest, because I think that Najee Harris he's kind of catching up. He's sneaking into the 2nd round now, and I think that's where he should be. I don't want to see him creep into the 1st round. Let's not do another Clyde Edwards-Helaire like we did last year.
Najee Harris 202 right now in half PPR.
But I feel great if I take Kelce or Adams or even Hill at the very back end of the 1st, and then I come back around and take Najee Harris. I am super, super happy with that, to be honest.
That's realistic. Gabe?
Yeah, I mean, I like Najee. I have a guy right in front of him who I'd rather take, comfortably to answer this question, and that's Austin Eckler. I mean, I like drafting RBs that are known commodities. And when Austin Eckler is healthy, he is sufficient in PPR and he'll get the carries as well. So I love that. The guys behind him, he's currently going at the 110. So if you're playing in a 10-man league at the turn, or if you're playing in a 12-man league back of the first. But Najee Harris, he has a horrible line. He's going to get tons of volume. He should be great, but there's a little bit of unpredictability there. And that goes the same with other guys that are right behind him. So Gibson, he's a guy that we all think should have tremendous upside this year and take that next step. However, it's still unpredictable. They just had a preseason game last week or just yesterday. He didn't get any 3rd down work in the entire time he was in the game, and he played the whole first quarter. So that scares me. Clyde, everyone thought he was going to be great last year. He was a bust if you picked him in the first 5, 6, 7 picks of the draft. And this year he's expected to take that jump. Again, unpredictability. The Chiefs do way too many things around the goal line that are different, and there are just too many weapons for Patrick Mahomes. And then last but not least, Mixon. He also has a horrible line.
Yeah.
And, he's going to get the volume, so he can be easily compared to a guy like Najee. But, I want to believe in
Clyde and Mixon are going like mid-second round. I think that if you are taking them as your running back one, then that means you picked a wide receiver, I think, too high in the first round. So
yeah.
Absolutely. Do you have an answer, Greg, for that?
I feel like we haven't gotten any Greg answers today, man. Come on.
I am not an expert analyst like you gentlemen. I am a fan. I am the man of the people, connecting them to you on this platform. But if I had to pick, it's probably Najee Harris. Just again, based on where he is, I think in ADP and right around that turn. If Clyde was falling into like the third round, Joe Mixon was falling into the third round, I think that there are some leagues where that happens. And if I start, tight end, wide receiver, totally fine. Throwing a dart at one of those guys and just seeing what happens because I'm set at those other positions.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Also, super flex, if I'm going quarterback early, I don't mind reaching a little farther down the ladder. I'm a big Clyde believer this year. I think he's going to be great. I think that he got, a little more heat than he deserved for his performance last year. He was a rookie. He was still perfectly serviceable. It was really just about the expectations were sky high. But
agreed. I just did a super flex dynasty draft where I went Mahomes and then I went DK Metcalf and I got Clyde in the third round. And knowing that I have Metcalf and Mahomes, I love having Clyde as my running back one. It depends about how the rest of your team looks, to be honest.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. I'm looking at ADP and it goes Gibson, Clyde, Mixon in the second round, and then the next one is J.K. Dobbins, and I think that's where the big tier break is. I would not feel good at all.
Once we get to I have Montgomery at 14 overall, but I wouldn't want Montgomery as my number one, and I'm talking pre-injury. He was 14 for me, but yeah, I wouldn't want Montgomery, Dobbins, Swift, Carson as my number one running back. That's where I draw the line.
All right, guys, good stuff. Great conversation today. We are a few minutes over, so I'm going to put a cork in it here. Thank you guys so much again. This was a lot of fun. New format, new concept. Didn't know if it would work, and I think it was a great success.
Yeah, it went really well.
Man, and just thank you for having us. This is such a unique concept, and I loved being a part of it. And congratulations to you for taking the courage to do it. I think it's going to be amazing. I think it's fun.
Well, we're going to have you back on mid-season, so you get to enjoy the fun all over again. Guys, take a minute, plug your show, tell the people where to find you, First Round Fantasy.
Really quick, we'll have to double down, and we'll have to write these notes down, Jacob, so we can come back mid-season and see how right we were, okay? So remember these takes. But as for that, you can find us on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook at First Round Fantasy. We offer 2 different types of shows. They come out weekly. We have one, our standard unbiased fantasy content show, where we talk about different topics every week. Once we get into the season, it's more so start sits, waiver wire pickups, things of that nature. But we also have a new iteration that we're introducing, and that is our It's Personal podcast, where we give you a unique insight into our leagues, how we do things, how we make trades, how we value our players, and that's 100% personal. And who knows, you might find somebody who plays just like you when you get to watching our podcast.
Well, everybody listening and watching at home, highly recommend you check out First Round Fantasy. I love their show. That's why they're on my show today. I'm a fan of everybody I bring on today and through the season, and that's why it's the Fantasy Fanline. I am geeking out as much as you guys are to get to talk to these people. And, we'll be doing this pretty much every week through the season, except for next week. Don't call in next week. I will be on a beach in Punta Cana with my wife. But
nice.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So every week after that, every Saturday, 2 p.m. Eastern time, give us a call. You can subscribe and stream us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and maybe Twitter. Like I said, I'll find out. I'm still kind of learning how this platform works, but we do show up the next day after we air on your favorite podcast platform in audio format. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Fantasy Fanline, and visit our website, fantasyfanline.com, for a full schedule of our awesome upcoming guests, where you will see the gentleman from First Round Fantasy again around week 8, week 9, I think. And you can submit a question to our mailbag there if you can't join us live. So if you enjoyed the show, please leave a review, tell a friend, and support us at patreon.com/fantasyfanline to earn some awesome perks. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will talk to you next time on Fantasy Fanline. I'm going to play the show outro, and we are out of here.